Welcome to the story of Hell's Cosmos. Everything started several years ago. The Cosmo tribe was discriminated against, not only by humanity, but also by most other Astromon tribes. They had a peaceful nature and therefore few fighters. Over time, thousands fell prey to other monsters, especially to the evil hordes of Dark Hades, who ruled over all continents from his tower. Ultimately, the inevitable happened. After a hard and bloody battle, King Cosmo fell. The news spread fast through Star Sanctuary, and chaos fell upon its citizens. In the next few weeks, most of the population fled or fought a desperate fight that in the end all had the same result: death. This is the beginning of the story of a group called Hell's Cosmos. Formerly, the infamous group was the scum of Star Sanctuary. Some were violent criminals, some drug dealers, and some were wanted for even worse things. 4 of them survived Star Sanctuary's massacre and made it to the mountain entrance of Sky Falls. They might have been criminals, but they were still from the Cosmo tribe. Here at the entrance of the mountain, they swore revenge. Revenge against all suppressing tribes. Revenge against the machine-like golems that Hades controlled. And over all others, against Hades himself, the murderer of their families and friends. These 4 were highly skilled Astromons, experienced in fighting through street fights around Starless Shroud and Morning Glow. But even they knew that their strength wouldn't be enough to fulfill their revenge. After a lot of thinking, one of them remembered that there was a rumor about ancient books which can raise one's power to unbelievable levels. It was said that they are hidden everywhere in Sky Falls, so the group started to search for them. 6 months later, after being into countless life and death situations, they finally acquired the last book that was missing. These books were talking about legendary gods that had powers beyond imagination. Gods that were strong enough to compete against the titans of this world. Something no sane Astromon would think of. Again and again, the books mentioned gods like Liga Zero, Chaos, Cunard, Otanan, Nasty Berry, Fakir, X-Melty, Haseo, DMZ, Beefy, and several others. For some reason, 2 other gods named Sebastian and Gifu were also mentioned. They seemed to be the lowest of the food chain and had to compete against the weak titans the other gods lost interest in. After reading all these stories, the Cosmos gained incredible strength, and they felt that the time for revenge has come. First on the list was the current ruler of Sky Falls, the devious Tigress, who gained the throne by backstabbing Frosky, the former ruler. The Cosmos remembered that they saw several Wormtails and Manolans were part of the invasion of Star Sanctuary, so the group had no intentions to peacefully leave without taking revenge on Tigress and his minions. After a glorious victory, they realized how strong they actually became. Their starburst attacks contained far more starlight energy, and their trump card, the Starfall, let incredible big and far more poisonous stars falling from the sky now. The time has come to fight an opponent whom the Cosmo tribe was afraid of for years. The undisputed ruler of the slumbering city, Chimera. The reason why even King Cosmo was afraid of Chimera was the immunity to poison of their Starfall attacks. But this was no reason anymore for the Cosmo gang to avoid him, even if they knew they will have a bloody and tiring battle. With every win, they gained more and more confidence. While they stood in front of Chimera's corpse, the confidence skyrocketed and they decided to increase the speed of their bloody path. After slaying Sasquatch and Merodon easily, they finally arrived in the anomalous climate area, where they met Vande Goro, the king of the glacial plains. They remembered the warning that King Cosmo once gave them. Be careful of Vande Goro. His regenerative skills are insanely strong, the king had told them. But in the end, even the regenerative power was not enough against the cruel poison of their starfalls. After Vande Goro's body was soaked in poison, his life ended quickly. Finally, they were able to enter the Aurora Plateau through the land of Umbra. Several decent opponents like Angelet and Sparkon slowed them down, but in the end were slain by the Cosmos on their way to the ruler of the Arctic continent and minion of Hades, Radius. Upon arriving in the astral cemetery, Bloodlust filled the game. They were soon standing in front of the first true minion of the murderer, their comrades. Who would have thought that 4 little stars, which no one took serious before, are now about to enter the continent of Rodinia, the last and most dangerous of the 5 continents. The countries and landscapes of this continent were mostly unknown to the cosmos, because up to this point none of them set foot on it. They couldn't be sure if the residents here were part of the massacre that took place some months ago, but that didn't stop them to conquer the continent as well. Maybe this was not needed, but after all the experiences they had in the past and through what they went, they roughened up a lot. After torturing a group of king slimes, they got the information of the whereabouts of their ruler, Alluvium Hollow. Fighting through some opponents like Fenrauder and Clay Revenant, they arrived in the desert's edge. Alluvium Hollow was surprisingly weak to their poison, and they started to think if this was really the correct decision, but in the end still progressed further. Through the mouth of a cave they entered the Terrestrial Rift. First everything went smooth, but they nearly fell victim to a surprise attack on an underground path. They thought they are fighting a group of Fungur again, which they did several times before, but they were actually Fennecs disguised as Fungors. They all survived it, and shortly after it they arrived at the Heart of Darkness. While standing at the fallen dynasties, they realized that they achieved their first goal. All tribes and their leaders that took part in the raid of the Star Sanctuary are dead now. Death, like their comrades that were innocent. Death, like their families and friends that just wanted to live their lives in peace. But how could they stop as long as the true enemy, Dark Hades, is still breathing? Some days later, they arrived at the entrance of the Tower of Chaos. It's not the first time they are seeing the tower, and they remembered how the tower was a lot smaller before Hades invaded it. Once, the ruler of all these continents, and the one that was sitting on top of the tower, was Eros. A ruler that was living in synergy with nature with a peaceful soul. The cosmos had no problems with the first 6 guardians of the entrance. They just entered the cave of the 7th golem. The minions and gatekeepers were coming one after another, and the gang had no time to take a breath. But also, one after another was defeated, and they were finally at the 10th golem, the last one that keeps them from entering the Tower of Chaos. The first step was done, and the entrance to the tower was open. A lot of younger gods were not able to pass this test, so they understood even more just how powerful they became. While their rage and hate was growing at the face of the tower, they were not losing their head and took a short rest after all these brutal fights. Now, a day later, they finally entered, and they knew it will take a while to climb to the top. 2 weeks later, in such a short amount of time, they were able to climb all the way to the 7th level, and they realized that the difficulty will raise a lot from here on. The next boss will be Balroxy. She's the first commander of Hades that they will have to face. Her ability to rule over countless minions is coming from the simple fact that she's just insanely powerful. The gang knew that lots of astromons on their way talked about Balroxy's infernal blaze, which detonates a giant stream of flames on the Earth's surface. After slaying Balroxy, they directly continued without any hesitation. A short while later, they already arrived at the 75th stage. The opponent this time is Poseidon. Once the ruler of the sea, after losing to Hades, he became a minion without any honor. But still, the combination of his vicious vortex and his devastating ocean's breath were able to stop a lot of young gods. felt as if Poseidon was not his former self and killing him was no problem. While fighting, it felt as he himself regretted his decision for quite some time and wanted to finally be freed. But now, an insanely strong opponent was in front of them. After once being the lover of Hades, she also went to the dark side. She might have lost her soul, but her powers multiplied in the process. On the ground were a lot of corpses of young and even middle-aged gods that seemed to have overestimated their powers. All-Mother Odin's skilled use of the Gungnir and the skill to bring a Ragnarok upon their enemies only let the stronger gods survive. This was the first life and death situation for them, and one Cosmo was on the verge of dying. It took the regenerative skills of the other three for days to bring him back to full power. After this crazy lady, the floors above felt like child's play. They rushed up to the 90th floor in such a short amount of time that they barely could believe it themselves. Here, at the 90th floor, Selene was waiting. The Cosmos were full of self-confidence because they heard a rumor that Selene was nothing compared to Odin. She was only closer to Hades because she was his current lover. While she was stronger as they expected, in the end, Odin was really on a different level. It took the Cosmos longer and longer to climb the floors now, but they still managed to reach floor 95, where Hades' highest commander was waiting, Arthur Pendragon. Arthur's path was tainted with shadows of corpses and blood, all caused by his legendary sword Excalibur. The Cosmos were prepared for another near-death experience. After Arthur was not able to hold Excalibur anymore, they knew that they won the battle. Shortly after, Arthur took his last breath and died. The gang had some injuries from the fight, but nothing could stop them anymore. Their hate and desire to revenge the fallen Cosmos took over. It felt as if they were slaying their opponents more brutally than before and only had one goal: find Hades. On their way, they saw a corpse with alien-like fingers, and it seemed to be Sebastian the Rain Dancer, one of the mentioned gods in the books. Sadly, he was not able to even see floor 100 because he was too weak. After managing to beat 99th floor, it was time to finally avenge Star Sanctuary. They knew there will be no backing off. Now it means living or dying. In their mind, the pictures were coming. They saw how brutally everyone in Star Sanctuary was murdered. The young, the innocent Cosmos. Let's start the last fight, they thought, and rushed into battle. was over. They spit on the corpse of Hades. They survived and avenged whole star century. They defeated several continents and all golem stages. They climbed the tower all by themselves and in the end killed Hades at floor 100. Once they were criminals, but they never abandoned their tribe, the tribe of the cosmos. On their way climbing up, they acquired lots of goods and even some extremely rare treasures. They hope that once their home will be in Star Century again. So my dear friends, raise your cosmos and help them to defend Star Century together. This was the true story of a gang of cosmos called Hell's Cosmos. It was a pleasure, guys.